Good morning, everyone. My name is Hina Patel. I'm the Technical Director for Food Safety Program at FSSC Services. I would like to thank everyone for joining the webinar today. Hope everyone is staying safe and healthy. Just a few notes before we get started. Webinar will start in about a couple of minutes. Please confirm you can hear us well and see the screen. We will have question and answer session for 15 minutes at the end of the presentation. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat box as they come up, and we will answer them at the end. If you are not able to get through all of the questions, we will follow up with the webinar to get those answered for you. Everyone will be placed in listen-only mode. This webinar is getting recorded, and we'll be sending you the recording webinar tomorrow. So I will give a quick overview of SCS Global Services and Certification Services we provide. SCS is an international leader in third-party certification and has been a global leader in environmental and sustainability certification, including auditing and testing services, training and consulting services, and also SCS had developed standards for over 35 years. SCS program spans across different types of industries, recognizing achievements in food and agriculture, product manufacturing, green building, forestry, and more. SCS provides FSSC 22000 certification, and for more information on programs we offer, please visit our website. SCS is a third-party certification body located in California's Bay Area with satellite offices around the world. SCS has offices in several countries, such as Indonesia, China, India, Africa, Australia, New Zealand, South America, and Central America. And for more information on the services we provide in different countries, please visit our website. Partnering with SCS Global Services, we offer a comprehensive approach to organization certification needs, bringing recognition to your products as an accredited provider in other certification services. And the services we offer are, for example, organic, non-GMO, gluten-free, and RSPO. We also offer a comprehensive approach to certifying your products as sustainable grown and can also meet your SMETA requirements, all with bundled and cost-effective package services. We also offer auditing and consulting services. I would like to introduce Jacqueline Southey. She will be leading the webinar today. Jacqueline is the North American representative for FSSC 22000. She's based out of Washington, D.C. Jacqueline works to build a broader understanding of how accredited FSSC 22000 can contribute to global harmonization in food safety, forge international compliance, and meets the needs of public and private sector. She is native of the United Kingdom. Jacqueline graduated with a Bachelor's of Science in Agriculture and a PhD in Animal Science from the University of Nottingham and has a background in transatlantic business development. So I would like to thank Jacqueline for presenting this webinar on FSSC 22000 certification benefits and version 5.0 updates. So passing it on to Jacqueline.
Thank you. So thank you very much. And thank you very much to SCS for this opportunity to talk to you today. I'm going to, as Hina said, I'm going to give you a quick overview of FSSC 22000 and the recent updates in version 5. So before I do that, I'm sad that I have to do this, but I just wanted to get some things out of the way. Obviously, we are a certification program owner, and we work with certification bodies that are auditing companies in the food industry all over the world. And we have been following the corona outbreak since it first started disrupting audits in China. So we've had to update our policy. And so just to get this out of the way, because I'm sure these will be a lot of questions, just to avoid questions and to move on to a more uplifting subject at this time. We've recently produced actually a series of position papers on our policy with handling disruptions to our auditing services and overview. The first one was published in February. It was updated on the 16th of March. And the last one was actually updated yesterday. For those of you who are interested in our latest policy, it was updated again yesterday to stay in line with the GFSI policies. And I recommend that you go to our website where we have a fully detailed guidance on how to handle the disruption and delaying audits, which can be delayed up to about 6 months, provided the CB is conducting risk assessments on the manufacturing facilities. So I just wanted to say that we stay straight in line with GFSI. We are monitoring the situation. We have a portal, a website to keep track of those audits that have been delayed, certification delays. And for complete information, please go to our website where you'll see our position papers. So that's my due diligence. And now on to more interesting things and talk about today's topics. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about a little bit of outline of FSSC 22000. I'm not quite sure how many of you out there are fully familiar with FSSC 22000. Some of you may already be certified. Some of you may be thinking about certification. Some of you may be thinking about transferring or stopping or starting at the very bottom. So I'm going to do some basic outline. Also going to talk about all the noise in updating to version 5 and what is FSSC version 5 and why. And then I'm going to talk about how we're working with FSMA. We are a global certification program. We're not totally confined to the US. And as everybody knows, the US regulations are having an impact to suppliers all over the world. And we're in a very good situation to help companies all over the globe be aware of the implications and requirements of FSMA. I'm going to explain a little bit how we're facilitating that. I'm going to talk about our new updated FSSC development program, which is an update of the FSSC. It's similar to the Global Markets Program, the GFSI Global Markets Program, and the benefits of that for some small and medium companies that might be looking at certification, but feel that they want to start off smaller on a simpler program, but in line with FSSC 22000. And then we'll talk a little bit about why we would do FSSC 22000 and how we can support our certification bodies as well as our certified organizations. So FSSC 22000, I've been with FSSC 22000 now for about 6 years, maybe even more, I hate to think. Even still for me, it's a little bit of a mouthful sometimes, but FSSC 22000 actually stands for Food Safety System Certification. It's a little bit different from some of the other certification programs in that it's actually a certification of the food safety management system. It's not solely confined to an audit program. The certification is actually an assessment of a way somebody is managing their food safety. So rather than going in with a checklist to say, we need to see, make sure that you're doing these processes, we go in as an auditor to assess your own food safety management. And that food safety management is defined by the ISO 22000, ISO 22000 management system, on which FSSC 22000 is based. So in order to be certified against FSSC 22000, you need to meet the requirements of ISO 22000, which is a publicly available standard written by consensus by the International Standard Organization, by the recognized and GFSI benchmarks and recognized prerequisite programs, which for the most part in FSSC 22000 are also ISO documents, and then the FSSC version 5 additional requirements. So it's a 3-part program, and that's where the name comes from, Food Safety System Certification, and it's comprised of those 3 components. And I'll go into each of those in more detail. So we're also a little bit different in that we are a non-profit foundation, and this brings some benefits. We are totally independent. Our expertise is in food safety and quality management systems, and we as I mentioned, we like to use all ISO-based standards, and the ISO-based standards brings all the global benefits and advantages and expertise of being an international organization. We are independent. We do not have directors. We're non-profit. We're not profit-driven. The funds that we raise go back into the scheme and into our integrity program. We're governed by multi-stakeholders and a board of stakeholders, which is comprised of representatives from all across the industry. And we exist really to make the international standards of ISO 22000 benchmarkable by the GFSI. So I'm going to explain a little bit more about that. So we're a small organization. We're totally focused on food safety and quality, and we are governed by a broad expertise of stakeholders. We've just celebrated our 10-year anniversary, and we have been working over those 10 years with some of the world's biggest brands. We are industry driven. FSSC 22000 was put together because the market saw a need to be able to use the international standards in the business-to-business arena, and to have them comply with GFSI and the GFSI standards. And we work with, as I said, some of the world's biggest brands. And some of the reasons that we do that is having the international standard framework allows the global companies to operate on the same food safety management system throughout the world. It also allows them to integrate their own management system into the FSSC framework. So it's multifaceted, there's many benefits, but it actually works also because of its flexibility, it also works very well for the small and medium companies, both from a certification point of view and also through the FSSC development program. So while we do work with many of the large companies and many of the suppliers of the large companies and many of the suppliers of those suppliers, we have that broad framework. We have a flexible and robust certification program that meets many of their needs. So a little bit more about these different components. So the ISO 22000 management system, so that provides the management framework. So that provides if you like, it's almost the instructions on how to do food safety management. And I would highly recommend, if anyone is thinking about FSSC 22000, to read the ISO 22000 standard. It's a very comprehensive, particularly the new version, which we'll talk about in more detail in a little while. But it provides that framework that describes risk assessment, and it describes what is needed within a company to do efficient and effective food safety management. It defines the need for the prerequisite programs, and it describes the hazard control program. It also defines the need for communication up and down the supply chain. You need to know where your materials are coming from. You need to know where they are going. You need to do internal audits. You need to be constantly reviewing your system and to insert within that the capacity for continuous improvement. And that's the blueprint, if you like, food safety management. And that's basic, and it applies to any organization within the food supply chain. But on its own, it doesn't meet the benchmarking requirements of GFSI because it's an independent standard, it's publicly available, and it's not actually owned by anyone. So the prerequisite programs are required by FSSC and also by ISO 22000, but FSSC defines the prerequisite programs that are required for the different sectors within the supply chain. So if you're manufacturing, you will be meeting the requirements of ISO 22002.1. If you're manufacturing food safety, if you are manufacturing food packaging, you would need the prerequisite programs of ISO 22000 2.4, and so on. And so those provide those require, if you like, the good manufacturing practices for that sector, and the requirements for controlling sanitation, for personnel, for hygiene, for environment, and all those good manufacturing practices, but applicable to that particular part of the sector. And then the FSSC additional requirements. And these are the specific requirements that we are in control of that ensures the consistency and integrity of the scheme. So it defines the requirements for our certification bodies, for our training organization, our organizations that are going to be certified. And these are the additional requirements that bring ISO 22000 into the form that is GFSI benchmarkable. So FSSC exists for industry to provide a GFSI benchmarked certification program that is based on ISO 22000. So that's really why we're here. And so these are the prerequisite programs that cover the supply chain, whether you're in food manufacturing, in production of animal feed, transport and storage, catering, or animal farming. And the first four at this time are GFSI benchmarked. Catering, retail and wholesale and animal farming are potential to be GFSI benchmarked, but there are reasons at this time while we are offering them outside of those outside of the benchmarking forum, and I can explain a little bit more about that too. So food manufacturing, packaging, animal feed, transport and storage, catering, retail and wholesale, and animal farming are all covered by accredited certification within FSSC 22000. And all of these meet the requirements of ISO 22000 and the additional FSSC additional requirements and the requirements of the prerequisite programs. So it's the same formula for all of the supply chain. It's just that you slot in the prerequisite program according to the sector. So there we are. That's FSSC 22000 in a nutshell. So where we are at this point, we are a global certification program, obviously. We have over 23,000 certificates now, and we are about 1/3 Asia, 1/3 Europe, and about 1/3 America. And if you put Africa into the European sector, this is a distribution of the certificates. And so you can see we have very good representation, and for a supply chain, a food supply chain that is now so global, FSSC 22000 meets those global requirements. In some countries, ISO 22000 actually replaces their regulations, particularly those countries that don't have the resources or the developing countries, which provide many of the raw materials for industry in the other sectors and the other hemispheres. They use ISO 22000 as their basis for food safety management standards. So it does meet the requirements right across the board. So what about version 5 then? So we're hearing an awful lot about FSSC 22000 version 5. And for those of you who are already certified to FSSC 4.1, and we're interested in the differences in version 5 and why version 5 and where we are. So version 5 was actually approved, or the plan for version 5 was approved in 2018. And the reason for version 5 is the update of ISO 22000. So ISO 22000 was first published in 2005, and after that FSSC was developed, but ISO 22000 hadn't been revised since 2005. Most ISO standards are actually revised every 5 years. But because ISO 22000 was working so well, it wasn't updated. But because of many regulatory changes, many changes in the supply chain, sophistication of manufacturing procedures, it was time to revise ISO 22000 in 2018, and the new version was published in June of 2018. So because of the new version of ISO 22000, FSSC needed to be updated. And it was high time for a complete overhaul of FSSC 22000. And it's taken a number of years to get the new scheme approved for accreditation, approved by our advisors and our board of stakeholders and our CBs to be a new and improved, streamlined form of FSSC. It was published in May of last year. And since then, certification bodies have also got to get up to speed with the new version, along with our training organization and our accreditation bodies. So we've been undergoing for the last 6 months the process of updating our processes, our training, our CBs, and we, as from the beginning of this year, all FSSC audits and certification processes are to be to FSSC version 5. So we're in the process of transferring everybody from 4.1 to 5, and the end product will be, the end date will be July 2021. So that's where we've been. So it's been an ongoing process for the last couple of years. And as I said, we had to, really, we wanted to update version 5 because we wanted to accommodate the revision of ISO 22000 to 2018. And we've also learned over the years of issues within the scheme and within our requirements. And we've been able to update the version 5 additional requirements. So obviously, we as an organization, we don't have any capacity to change ISO 22000 or the ISO standards. While we are on the committees and we obviously are consulted and we can have some input into the committees for revision, they are written by consensus on a global platform. So we don't change those standards, we can change our FSSC additional requirements. And so we've updated and streamlined those in version 5. We've allowed the addition of the new scopes, and we've also allowed the inclusion of the board of stakeholders list. And so this is an important document because it allows FSSC to be updated by changes or amendments that need to be made without having to change the whole of the scheme or to produce a new version of FSSC 22000. So as part of the scheme, we also should really consider the board of stakeholders decisions list. And this is their mandatory obligations as part of the certification program, but it provides that flexibility. So if there is a new development, a new regulation that comes in or some interim changes, this board of stakeholders list provides an opportunity to keep a dynamic document that can be changed to incorporate some changes to the scheme without having to reissue the whole of FSSC 22000. So that's become more dynamic in version 5. And it also allows for the integration of audits and certification because of the introduction of the high-level structure, again, which I'll talk about in the next slide, to ISO 22000. We needed also to incorporate some updates into version 5 to achieve benchmarking to GFSI 7.2. And obviously, GFSI benchmarking is also a dynamic situation, is constantly being updated. And we are obliged to keep up with that too, as a market demand and a business-to-business advantage. And also in version 5, we have incorporated some additional updates to recognize the regulatory changes all over the world. So as I said, that's the reasons that we've updated version 5. But the main reason is the new 22000-2018. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, if you are thinking about becoming FSSC certified, I would highly recommend obtaining a copy of ISO 22000 and reading it, because really it is the essence of FSSC. The new version is very interesting, and one of the key things of the new 22000 is that it adopts the high-level structure. So if you're familiar with 9001 or ISO 14001 or 45001, you'll realize that the new 22000 is on the same structure. So the clauses are numbered the same. And so from a manufacturing point of view, an industrial point of view, it allows companies to integrate their management systems, which introduces efficiencies both within the company and externally for auditing purposes. It's got much better explanations on risk and new approaches, and it requires a company to have what they call 2 risk assessment cycles, 2 plan, do, check, act cycles, and to consider the context of the organization and the risks and opportunities on the organizational side, which feed in to the management, the food safety management system from the production side. And so that allows or requires consideration of external things, possibly like digital opportunities, risks from food fraud, risks obviously from the situation that we find ourselves in right now, and is more explanation on sort of risk-based processes for planning on a company scale. So it's a very useful document. It's very applicable for companies of all size, and it's very well worth having a read. The new version also takes into account the changes in regulations. It takes into account the changes to the modern industry and the way the industry is now so global. And so that's ISO 22000. So some of the other benefits are, as I said, it's aimed at global harmonization. So we're looking both at domestic production and also production overseas, which brings us in line also with regulatory changes in the US, which I can refer again later. The 2 PDCA cycles, the HLS structure, which provides that unity across the different management systems, and also improved definitions. ISO talks about critical control points in its hazard assessment program, now called a hazard control program. It also talks about operational prerequisite programs. It has better definitions, and also adds a significant hazard definition. So for those of us that are in the US and are familiar with talking about FSMA, some of these will start becoming to be a little bit more meaningful. So other documents that are also available now with FSSC 22000, which we hope will be of use and of interest to those of you that are looking at certification. We have an overview of the main changes, the processes for upgrading to the new version 5. We also have guidance on food fraud mitigation and food defense, which are obviously an important part of the food safety management system. And we have an ISO 22000 interpretation document. These are all available free of charge on our website. So even if you're not in a situation where you're thinking about certification, or you're not ready for certification, or you're thinking about it, these are well worth looking at, and they're really good resources. Also, the Board of Stakeholders list, which has just been updated this month to include the policy for COVID-19. And we've also got the updated version 5 FSMA addendum, which I'm going to talk about also. So these are all good documents. They're all very helpful, and I would highly recommend that you refer to them. Just a few words about our integrity program. As I said, we are a non-profit organization, and many of our funds that we generate are put back into maintaining the integrity of the scheme. We do have an integrity team, and their role is to monitor the certification. And we're dealing with sort of, I think 130, 128, 130 certification bodies all over the world. And our goal is to have the certification consistent in those certification bodies around the world. And that gives the value to FSSC 22000. So we have a process of licensing certification bodies so that they are all adequately prepared and knowledgeable in order to be able to offer FSSC. We maintain a consistent contact with them. We have performance evaluations of the certification bodies. We'll monitor audits as they entered into the portal. We'll have desk reviews from time to time of our certification bodies on a regular schedule, and we'll also visit the certification bodies on a cycle. We have harmonization days for all our certification bodies to all get together and share their views and gain from each other experience. And we have a customer support forum online for our certification bodies in My FSSC, which provides updated information. So if you're a certification body, if you're an auditor, we have these resources for you. If you are an organization that is undergoing certification, these should provide some confidence in the system in the way that we are maintaining contact with our certification bodies to give you confidence in the robustness and the maintaining of standards through FSSC 22000. And then obviously it goes without saying, the importance of integrity to us is to maintain the reliability and consistency of the FSSC 22000 audit so that you can have confidence as a purchaser, as a certified organization actually in the certificate. And those certificates are uploaded into our website so that we have a register of certified organizations, and you need to be confident in those companies that are listed on the FSSC website. It also allows for continuous improvement because we're monitoring the CVs. We learn from issues. If we notice that CVs are interpreting the requirement, obviously, in a way that it wasn't intended, we can improve. That's one of the reasons that we've been able to improve version 5. We have the flexibility to improve the standard through our board of stakeholders decisions list. So we maintain a dynamic situation. So while a company that is certified by FSSC 22000 has the capacity to review and constantly improve, we too, as that certification program owner, can review how the standard is working and to incorporate those improvements. So we're working with 130 certification bodies, 40 accreditation bodies, 26 training organizations, and 1,500 auditors. And that's why our integrity program is so important. And that's why communication is so important. And that's why I'm so pleased to have an opportunity to do webinars such as this with SCS that improves our communication and sort of connects those links so that we know where everybody is. So we do have a version 5 portal. This is our database. And one of the most important roles of our portal is to be able to have the certified organizations listed on our database. So we have a public list of certified organizations, and that is the register of companies that are FSSC certified. We're hoping to improve it's a very new portal actually, we're building it in order to incorporate and to accommodate version 5. So it is an ongoing process like many of these things often are. But we're hoping to have it to a situation where brand owners that are using it for their suppliers can see when the certificates are expiring or updated or changing, or they're adding adding capacity within that. So that's a very important role of our portal. It's also used for our integrity program because it's able to monitor the auditors and CVs add the audits into the portal. We can monitor them, we can review them, and we can schedule reviews, desk reviews, and audits in the field. So it's a very important program. So the FSMA addendum, which is one of my babies, I'm actually based just outside of Washington, D.C. I've been monitoring the implementation of FSMA for many years. I have communication with the FDA and really appreciate the role that they have played in improving food safety through the Food Safety Modernization Act. And FSSC and FSMA have many common goals. We're very similar. We both have this risk-based preventative system. As I mentioned, ISO 22000 now talks about hazard control, very much like FSMA talks about preventative controls. We're both focused on food safety management and continuous improvement. I explained how the role of ISO 22000 and food safety management and the Plan, Do, Check, Act role is all about reviewing and continuous improvement. ISO 22000 requires communication like FSMA does to know where your products are going, where they come from, and who's controlling the hazard. Both are flexible and robust and applicable to many situations. And while we didn't think it would at the beginning, FSMA has had inordinate international impact. There are many companies that are importing into the US that need to meet the requirements of FSMA. And FSSC, as a global certification platform, is in a very good situation to be able to help companies overseas to be aware of the FSMA requirements and to help them meet them. So there are many similarities between ISO 22000 and FSMA. The prerequisite programs, as I mentioned, line up with the good manufacturing practice of FSMA. The operational prerequisite programs are very similar to the preventive controls, and the critical control points of the hazard control program are very similar to the process preventive controls. So we're in a situation where we can help companies meet the requirements of FSMA and interpret those requirements in order to achieve compliance. So we've just recently updated our FSMA addendum. And as part of that, in order to make the addendum, what we have, and we have these available on our website, is we have updated the requirements of FSSC version 5 against the requirements of the preventative controls rule. So if you have customers that are interested in seeing what is required in FSMA and the preventative control rules for human food and how that compares to the requirements of FSSC 22000, we have those requirements all lined up on an Excel spreadsheet, which is online, which is a reference document. I mean, it also helps organizations perhaps more familiar with FSSC, less familiar with FSMA to see the differences and similarities in the requirements. We've also just published an addendum, which can be used by companies both in the US and overseas. That accompanies an FSSC report, an audit report, to supplement some of the specific details that are required by FSMA, including details of hazard control that can be shared up the supply chain as required by FSMA. So the intent is to share the information within the supply chain rather than to certify compliance, which we don't do, but it is a mechanism to share information that is required by FSMA up the supply chain for supply check verification, both from overseas suppliers and domestic suppliers. And our global footprint is a reason why we believe that we can help both the FDA and the industry in meeting the regulations, because this is the distribution of our certified facilities. And many of those, when you look at the FDA registration and to see where many of the foreign suppliers are, many of them line up with those territories in which we are active. So we feel that we have a role both in sharing information about FSMA and helping companies in their food safety management to achieve an improvement in food safety throughout the world. A little bit about the food safety, the FSSC development program. This is like a stepping stone for companies, for small, medium companies that maybe are not feeling confident enough to take on the whole of an FSSC certification, but are interested in getting on the ladder of food safety management. It doesn't meet the GFSI requirements, but it does provide a conformity assessment similar to the GFSI Global Markets Program that many vendors are interested in, particularly in small suppliers in small territories, to actually start monitoring and providing evidence of their food safety management. So part of this is comprised of 3 elements: a free self-evaluation tool, which is also on our website. So if you're interested in even looking at how you would compare with FSSC or the beginnings of FSSC, this is a free evaluation tool where you can have a look and see the essential requirements and compare those to your own food safety management system. We also have a training module, and we have a set of requirements for conformity assessment. And so these are all on our website. And so it allows you to do, after a process of self-evaluation, be assessed by a licensed conformity assessment body, and then to be delivered a conformity statement. This is different from an FSSC certificate, obviously, because it's not a GFSI benchmarked certification, but it is recognized as a level 1 conformity statement. If you can advance to a second level, you can achieve a level 2 conformity assessment. There's a few more requirements that are listed in the level 2 assessment, and then as your sophistication or your food safety management is expanded, gets more detailed and more developed, you can go forward for FSSC 22000 certification. So it's a way of it's learning about food safety management, learning about FSSC. It's a good program both for training within an organization and also within a CB, because the assessments can be conducted by auditors which are not fully fledged GFSI auditors. So it's a way of building a program together and building up a knowledge base and a level of sophistication. So that's our FSSC development program. It's just newly minted. It's on our website, and it's there for you to have a look at. So you'll be pleased, I'm just coming to the end now. I just want to conclude. And just a little summary of why we believe FSSC can help you, and why it's close to our hearts, and why we believe in FSSC 22000. It's a certification program which is a risk-based approach, and that risk-based approach comes from the benefit of ISO 22000, which is a robust, recognized global certification system, management system. It incorporates HACCP, although now ISO 22000 calls it a hazard control program. We have within FSSC 22000, we have a robust integrity program, which we believe is very important for the reliability and consistency of our certification. FSSC is recognized by the GFSI. This is very important to us. We work very closely with the GFSI. We respect their decisions, and we are aware of the business-to-business benefits of being GFSI benchmarked. It's recognized now throughout the world by companies of all sizes. We have a global footprint and are known to the world's leading brands. They recognize our certification. They like their suppliers to be FSSC certified. They like all their international facilities to be FSSC certified, providing that level platform on which to operate and to incorporate those efficiencies. We align with regulatory requirements. We have recognition in Europe of the benefit that we can have into the regulatory requirements, and we're working with the FDA on how we can leverage, we can help them leverage the resources that they have in order to get the information about FSMA and FSMA requirements across the globe. We maintain the supply chain approach, communication up and down, with a major emphasis on continuous improvement. And now we have our newly minted, updated development program, which provides the opportunities of FSSC 22000 to small and medium companies. We've been around for 10 years. As I said, this is a little bit out of date now because at the beginning of the year, we were at 21,000. We're now at 23,000 certificates. So we're undergoing major growth. We are global. We have boots on the ground. We have representatives in China, Japan, India, myself in North America. I also have colleagues in South America and Europe, so that we can talk to local companies, local TBs, and we're working, as I said, with a certification, 130 certification bodies around the world, training organizations and accreditation bodies. We have our website, which provides information both as a certified organization, as a certification body. We have a list of our certified companies. We have the scheme requirements. We have details of how to become certified. And as I said, our certificates worldwide lists the organizations that are FSSC certified. And we have information available. If you need more information, we are available. We have brochures on the different scopes, the benefits, and we have newsletters. We have a general newsletter that goes out at regular intervals. If you'd like to subscribe to that, there is an opportunity on our website to subscribe to that. We have guidance documents, and most of our documents are translated into many languages, at least Spanish, Chinese, Indian, and the list goes on. I know it would be lovely to have the documents in every language, but we're building on that too. So I think that brings us to end. This is our team. We're very small. This is our harmonization day, as well as getting all our certification bodies together in one place. The whole of our global team meets once a year in Amsterdam or in one of the surrounding towns. And this is a way where we all get together, we share information, share experience, share knowledge in order to continue with our continuous improvement. So we're very small, we're very, I was going to say small, but compact, and we're here for you. So I'm going to close now. If we have any questions, I would be pleased to see if I can answer them, or I'll pass them back to Tina. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jacqueline. Yeah, if anyone has any technical questions, please send us an email. I have my email address on this slide. We'll be happy to answer any questions. Well, it looks like nobody has any questions.
No questions.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know whether that's a good thing or not. Anyway, so if we don't have any questions, Tina, then I want to say again, thank you very much for the opportunity to present the webinar. I hope that I've answered the questions that you had. Do you have any questions at this time that maybe the webinar has raised that I could maybe answer for you?
No, I think the webinar was presented really well. It was very descriptive, and I don't have any questions at this time.
So there's one question that just came in. Actually, there's a question I can see. How long does it take to achieve FSSC 22000? And I could maybe pass that one back to you. It really does depend on the size of the organization. I think it depends on the level of food safety management already exists, but it really does depend on the size of the organization. Tina, what would you say to how long does it take to achieve FSSC 22000?
Right. So again, it depends on the size of the facility, number of employees, total number of HACCP plans. But typically, if a new client comes on board, it takes about 4 to 5 months or up to 6 months. It all depends on how well the site is prepared, because it requires documentation and implementation. So typically from our experience, we have seen that it takes up to 6 months to get the site certified, because the initial audit is typically stage 1 audit, where we go out on the site and do the stage 1 audit. And if there are any findings, then those findings needs to be closed before we go out into stage 2 audit. So I would say up to 6 months, but again, the site is prepared, then it's all up to the site. Sometimes, on some accounts, we have certified them within 3 months. So it depends how well the site is prepared.
Okay. Okay, there's another question. All right, I can't see another question. Maybe I can't see questions. No, I don't see another question. Do you have any provision to provide training to individuals about auditor training? So I will answer that about auditor training. So on our website, we have a list of registered or licensed training organizations, and these training organizations work with us to provide auditor training. So there are some organizations that will provide lead auditor training. So please go to the website. Many of the courses are listed. It's very difficult to compile lists of all the training organizations because they're so global and we have training all over the world. But I would suggest you go there, see the list of training organizations and contact them. If you can't find a lead auditor training in your particular area, then please feel free to come through to me and I will see if I can contact some of the organizations directly. But we do work through training organizations and we do have lead auditor training. So there's another question here about the scheme translated in Japanese. Yes, I believe it is in Japanese. Then if you go to the website and go to the scheme documents, there is a section on translations. I know that we are working our way through version 5 to get it translated to all the in all the languages. I do have a colleague in Japan that does what I do here in Japan, and I think that we have finalized the Japanese translation. So please consult the website. So there's another question: why FSSC over SQF or BRC, Primus or ISO? So I could give a webinar on that. So ISO is not FSSC 22000. ISO 22000 is, as I said, is a good management system, but on its own, it has no governance, it has no ownership, and so ISO 22000 is not GFSI benchmarkable. FSSC 22000 is global. It's recognized by many of the major organizations. It's more flexible than some of the other certification programs that may be more specific but may have greater guidance. So it's a risk-based management system as opposed to an audit program. So that's why we're different. So there are a number of reasons. I mean, all the certification programs have their benefits, FSSC is different because it's a system certification. We're accredited to 17021. We are risk-based. We're a PDCA-based cycle with continuous improvement. So that just is the differentiator between us and some of the others. There's another question. Can you explain about 1 or 2 steps for the conformity assessment? So this is in the development program. So it's a level. If you go to FSSC22000.com and go to the FSSC development program online, you will see that there are a list of requirements to achieve conformity level 1, and then the added requirements that are needed for level 2. So it's a subtlety of some additional requirements for level 2. So rather than go through in detail about all the different specific requirements to achieve conformity assessment, I'm going to direct you to the website. And then after you've had a look, it's very explicit. They're all freely available. It's listed, the requirements are listed, so you can do a gap analysis for your own facility. And then if you have any questions after having gone through the documentation there, then please come back to me. But I think it's fairly explicit there. So thanks for that question. Any more questions? I don't have questions here, Shaima. So if there's another question come up. No more questions. Okay, all right. So thank you, Shaima. I appreciate that, and I hope that I've helped answer those questions. I'm sorry that I couldn't see them on my screen, so that was very helpful. And as I said, if there's any more questions outstanding, then please feel free to contact me or Tina.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you for participating today.
All right, thank you.